Welcome, everybody. We're just going to let everyone come in. We'll get started in just a moment. We look forward to kicking this off for all of you. Thanks for joining us today. We're so excited to have you here. A little bit of housekeeping as you join us. This is a webinar, so you won't be able to see yourselves on camera. You'll just be able to see us on camera. If you have any questions at any time, you can pop them either in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screens or in the chat box. I will be keeping an eye on that throughout the program, and we'll ask our panelists throughout the program. We're really happy to have you joining us today. So that we're mindful of time, I will get started. People can come and go throughout the hour that we're here. Welcome, everybody. I'm Lindsay Griffiths. This is the International Lawyers Network's Next Gen virtual program. We're really excited to have you joining us today. With us, we have Amy Fracassini with Davis Malm, Nick Wood from Fladgate, and Alishan Naqvee with LexCounsel. We're really happy to have them with us. I'll let them tell you a little bit about themselves and their practices. So Amy, why don't you kick it off?
So good afternoon or good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Fracassini from the Boston office of the ILN Boston firm. I basically have a practice in corporate and real estate. I transcend both of those practice areas and do mostly transactional work. I am the former managing partner of the Boston law firm. I just stepped down this year and passed it on to Next Generation. But I've been on the executive committee for my firm, and I've been on the executive committee for ILN, and I'm now the new chair of the board of ILN. So welcome. We're delighted to have you, and feel free to ask questions at any time. Nick?
Yep, sure. It feels weird introducing myself to a group of people that I can't see, so I don't know who's there, but it's fine. I'll do it anyway. My name is Nick Wood. As you can see, I am a recently promoted partner at Fladgate, which is ILN's sort of London firm, London, UK, if you couldn't tell from my accent. And I also do kind of corporate real estate and real estate transactional work. Predominantly, I work on regeneration and development projects in London.
Perfect.
Hi, I'm Alishan at home. It's 11:15 in India. Hi, everyone. And I am the founding partner of LexCounsel Law Offices, a member of ILN since 2009. A very proud member of ILN we are. I started as a corporate lawyer, but I transitioned to being a litigation and dispute resolutions lawyer way back in 2007. So my individual practice constitutes about 75% of litigation and dispute resolution arbitration work now. Firm is 50-50, so I have other partners who look after corporate and mergers and acquisition, other practice areas other than dispute resolution. That's how we are structured. We have 5 offices across India, and I am happy to be a part of ILN and happy to be a part of the panelist here. Thanks, Lindsay, for this opportunity. Thanks, Amy, and thanks, Nick.
Great, thanks so much. Okay, so let's kick it off talking about effective team management and delegation. So this can be for any of you, but I think maybe Amy or Alishan will take it. What are some of the biggest challenges that young lawyers face when, maybe actually Nick will take it, when stepping into leadership roles and managing a team for the first time? Nick, maybe you want to take this one now that you're a new partner and you're maybe managing a team for the first time. What are some of the challenges that you face stepping into a leadership role?
Yeah, I think at Fladgate we have a 2-year program to prepare you for partnership. So the hardest bit is getting onto that program, and then you sort of once you're on it, you see it through. And by the time you get to partnership, you are quite well prepared. I think in fact, a lot of the pressure's off because you've made it in a funny way. So it does prepare you quite well for that, and I do feel quite fortunate to have had the benefit of that. So I suppose stepping into the partnership this year, I've had the benefit of this transitional process that's taken quite a long time. And for that reason, I've been kind of leading transactions and managing teams in the context of transactions for a few years. So it's not like I've suddenly landed in the partnership and I'm sort of flailing around wondering what to do. And I think, you know, observationally, everyone does this slightly differently, but from my perspective, as someone who's relatively recently been managed and has now started stepping into management, I think allowing people to learn and not jumping in ahead of them is probably instinctively, as a lawyer, you want everything to be right, and you want to do everything sort of, and you want to cross every T and dot every I, and you've got as far as you've got in your career because you've learned how to do that really well. And now you need to let someone who's not as good at that take over and do it. And you have to kind of let them make the mistakes and do things in a way that you know, that you just wouldn't do it like that anymore. But you have to remember, at their stage you would have done. And it's all part of the journey and it's all part of the process, and your job has changed. So I think the hardest thing I've observed for people who are stepping into the PDP, the partnership program journey, and through conversation, I know this is the case for everybody, it's kind of letting go a little bit, allowing kind of mistakes to be made in a careful way, and sort of gently counseling and allowing people to come through and find their own voice. Because again, if you're micromanaging, you're trying to create someone in your own image, when actually, if you want to bring someone through as a really effective lawyer, if you can allow them to find their own voice and not overly manage them, even though you will feel like doing that, I think that's probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Amy, would you add anything to that?
I would add a couple things. So I think you have to be mindful, every attorney manages right from the get-go, right? You manage your administrative assistant, your secretary, whoever it may be. You might be managing paralegals, but I totally agree with Nick. I think you have to let people learn, you know, have the patience to let them learn. I totally agree with that. I think you also have to be mindful to make sure you give plenty of time and deadlines so that if those mistakes should happen, if you do have to step in, there's still plenty of time for you to correct it or give them the time to correct it and to learn and have the process play itself out. And I think the important thing is just, you know, you're doing this already, but just be mindful, be kind, be patient, but also stay to task. Make sure you give those deadlines and you check up on it, because you're the party responsible for making sure that you get back to the client at a you know, the appropriate time. So you don't want there to be too much time. So you're the one that has to manage that. And I think that's really, really hard if you're not organized, if you've never done it before. So make sure you give yourself enough space, enough time, but also stay on them to make sure that you get all the work in the aggregate so that you can report back to the client in a timely manner. And I apologize, I look like I have like some halo over my head or something, but I'm having lighting issues.
Giving
So
deadlines. Yeah, I think that's a key for me, and is something now that I'm managing somebody below me is the thing I just learned I have to do. You can't just give someone a task. You have to give them a task and a deadline, because
Right.
otherwise they'll just fit it in whenever they think is necessary, which is not always what your expectation of when something is due is. So, Alishan, what would you add to that?
So, Lindsay, a couple of things. Way back in my life, so I also, in addition to law, I did a course on industrial relations, personal management. And I understood way back in my life that encouragement is of two types, basically. Now, there may be multiple types. I'm talking about 1998 and 1999. Positive and negative encouragement. So, positive encouragement is when you encourage somebody to deliver. Negative encouragement is also by way of punishment. And the success of a good leader is to perfectly balance the two. If you negatively encourage your team, that means every time they fail, there is a consequence which is by way of repercussions. Of course, it is going to demotivate the team. But if you neglect when they fail to perform and just recognize them when they do perform, is going to make them realize that if they fail, it doesn't matter. There are no consequences. Now, I completely agree with Amy. there are serious repercussions. While you have to develop a leadership team, we also have to manage the client expectations. More than that, we have to retain the clients to keep the firm going. So as Amy said, that we have to keep the timelines fairly advanced so that if we have to step in, we have to do that. I would just add to that, that we also have to make them realize at that time that what are the consequences. So I very often, and I think some of my office colleagues have joined and they will vouch for it. I've told them that, if you slip on something, I'm there. If you act, there is no problem. But if there is an omission, there is a problem. Because I have difficulty explaining to the clients, why did we not act? So if you act and the judgment has gone wrong, there is always, I can deal with it with the client. There were two options. We took option A, option B, or the second option was not that good. That is one thing. The second aspect that I want to bring out is there is also a concept which is coming up. I mean, it's a term which people use, Gen Z, unbossing, And this I realize first I encountered when I traveled and met some law firms in Europe and UK way back in 2015-16. They said a lot of people didn't want to make partners. They wanted to be counsels because partnership and equity partnership brings a lot of responsibilities, And now unbossing is a term where people don't want to grow. Perhaps Nick may add to it because I am from the previous generation, considering my age. But then that is one thing that people in my generation have to calibrate, because we need leaders to replace us, not to add to us, but to replace us in the next 10 years, maybe 15, But at the same time, are there leaders who are going to take the responsibility for everything? And also they are able to understand the positive and negative and encouragement and nurture the teams beneath them. So more important is like as they used to say for the company, that's like a river. Man may come, man may go, but the river goes on forever. It's the same thing. So a firm, ideally and professionally managed, continues to run. Partners may retire, partners can go, new partners may replace them. New partners have to take up the leadership role. So I don't have answers, but I do find a difficulty in matching the expectations of the newer generations. And I'm not beating around the bush. I'm being candid about it. So that's what it is about. I'm having difficulty because the fire in the belly, sometimes I feel, is missing in my part of the world, and where it should be, because we are so many of us. Competition in India is fierce than anywhere else in the world. And if I'm seeing that missing, I'm sure my colleagues in other parts of the world will be seeing it. So thankfully we have Nick here, and we can hear from Nick that, Nick, what does your generation think about it? I mean, are you up for the challenges? Unbossing, how relevant it is? Does it differ from person to person? Something like that.
Are you
So
unbossing, Nick?
I just spoke my mind, but I thought.
I love that. And actually, it's amazing how closely it mirrors a lot of the feedback we hear in London. And I'd be interested to hear whether Amy has a similar experience. I'm a millennial, so I'm not a Gen Z. But when I was coming into the workplace, there was a lot of this conversation around millennials as well.
Yes.
And I remember it well. It's sort of where's the appetite, where's the hunger, where's the kind of the drive, and I think that there certainly is. I wonder whether there's more honesty. Whether it's always been the case that not everybody has wanted partnership, but people are increasingly confident to kind of own, an alternative path, or can see an alternative, or admit it. But I do also think that there probably is a generational shift. We're very, very comfortable. We're very comfortable, and I think taking responsibility and stepping into leadership positions is making yourself uncomfortable, and to make that decision, it gets harder and harder the more comfortable everything else becomes in your life. So I think I can see that we probably are softening. The concurrent trend that I think kind of mitigates against that being such a problem is careers are getting longer. So by the time people are becoming partners at a later and later stage, at least, here. And I think that suits the sensitivities of this generation, because it allows them to kind of start a bit later, to take a longer route, to harden themselves up until they feel that they're ready. So as you see, I mean, I love that picture you gave of the river. I think it continues to flow. There are new partners coming through who are incredibly hungry and driven and motivated and open to, the pain of leadership, and the responsibility of it. They just tend to be a bit older, and that probably reflects the fact they're going to retire a bit later.
Are you seeing that too, Amy?
Yeah, I think I have I'm hearing the same messaging from some of our younger associates, and some of them have already transitioned into partnership, and it makes me smile a little bit, because 10 years ago, they're like, no, I don't want this. I'm going to go in-house. I don't want the responsibility of building a practice and managing a practice. Unfortunately, life gets in the way, and people start having, buying houses, having children, and all of a sudden they realize, those ideals didn't really come to fruition, because they get on the rat wheel like the rest of us, and they have to pay their mortgage, and they have to put their kids through school, and they, all of this stuff, like, just life happens. Right or wrong, we all chose a profession where, as lawyers, you really have to be masters of your own destiny if you're going to succeed. And unfortunately, it is what it is. You can stay as an of-counsel position, you can stay as an associate position if your firms will allow you to do that, but the growth opportunity just isn't there if you take those tracks. Whether it's right or wrong, everyone has to make their own personal decision. I'm not going to comment on that. But if you can be a master of your own destiny, you do have much more freedom to control, your career, your path. And, sometimes the leadership roles just happen organically. I think, I would never have thought I would be a managing partner of a, Boston law firm 10, 15 years ago. And all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, wow, how did this happen? And I'm the adult in the room. It just happens. So don't be afraid of it. I agree with Nick, like, just let it happen. You'll start to see, as you start taking on more responsibility in your jobs, as you let your years pass, you'll be the one that people will turn to. You'll be the voice of confidence. You'll be the voice where they turn to for, for lessons, or coming to you ask questions on a legal matter. But all of a sudden you're going to just start evolving into a role that it's not so bad. And it's nice. It's nice to be the one that people are turning to. It's nice to be a leader. It's nice to have that responsibility. And it's not a bad thing. And so I think just let it evolve organically. I would say get involved to the extent that you want to get involved. Management isn't a bad thing. Sometimes you control your own destiny with the future of the firm, and that's not a wrong thing, because you can control where your business is going. And whether you're running the firm as a whole, or being part of that process, or you're running your practice, that's a good thing. And it's something you don't have to think about in your early years, but it will organically happen. And just don't make choices today that might affect something that you might ultimately really enjoy, that's coming down the pike. And I think we all turn and look and say, how did I become the adult in the room? Like, everyone says that, and you just realize it happens. So don't be afraid of it. Be open to opportunities. I think, sometimes the things that push you beyond your comfort zone are really the most rewarding things in life.
I cannot agree with that more. Absolutely, 100%. So let's talk a little bit about client relationships. How have client relationships evolved in recent years, and how can young lawyers who are maybe looking to evolve those relationships position themselves as valuable advisors in these early years of their careers?
Yep, I'll take it if you want.
Yeah.
Lindsay. So I've spoken about this at prior Next Gen events. Again, this will happen. Do not panic about it. Like, every attorney says, how am I ever going to build a practice? It will happen. It just takes time. So it happens in two ways. Get out and meet as many people as possible, build your relationships. I wouldn't necessarily say it comes from friendships, because I think sometimes people really like to keep friendships and business separate. But if you can build business relationships that turn into friends, those are the ones that probably ultimately will become clients. But get involved, meet as many people as possible. They're not going to turn into clients today, but as people move through their organizations, again, as they become the seniors in the room, they're going to be in a position to throw off business. You want to be in the position where you're now a senior in your organization, and they're going to refer to you to ask questions, and ultimately, hopefully, give you business. Be willing to give time. Be willing to do some free work without billing. Be willing to give some advice. Be willing to be a mentor in some ways, because those also turn into business opportunities at some point. But so build those relationships externally, but also really importantly, build your relationships internally. So a lot of attorneys ultimately inherit a practice. People retire, people leave clients to other attorneys. You want to be the person that's instrumental in your colleagues' businesses, where the people just start calling you on a regular basis. Make yourself invaluable to them, that they're the point person that they're calling, because you're the one that's billing at the lower rate. So you're the person that's easier to call and get the answers very quickly at a more efficient, cost-effective rate. So make yourself indispensable to those clients and your partners, your colleagues, because as they rely more and more on you, you've just inherently built a practice within your firm. It might not be your origination, but you have constant business where these clients are calling you. That's a good thing. And then if your partners or the originating attorneys that originated this business do move on or retire, you're the logical choice to take on that business. And that's a really good way to build a practice. So do it organically by building your own relationships, but also build relationships internally and make yourself invaluable.
Yeah. Alishan, would you add anything to that?
I completely agree with Emmy. And I wish that Emmy was the managing partner of my firm with these brilliant ideas. Because Emmy, I can't agree with you more. And I often tell my juniors, while I am talking to the general counsel, there are people in the team who are of the same age group as you. These are the general counsels of tomorrow. Most of the senior lawyers make this mistake of just dealing with the general counsels, ignoring the lawyers in the team. But they will, in 5 years, be heading the leadership roles in the legal teams. And you are of the same generation. So if you build relationships today and professional relationships, then you stand a great chance of earning business tomorrow. Second thing that I tell them, that be friendly. I mean, it's a little different in India, but not be over friendly. Unfortunately, my experience in India has been that we have got work from people who know us. But when those general counsels become great friends to us, to the extent that they are coming at my marriage anniversary, I'm going at their marriage anniversary, we are inviting each other on our children's birthday, the work stops. Because then we become more of a social friends. I don't know how it is in the other parts of the world, and I'm curious. But in India, we cannot have on a relationship scale of 0 to 10. We will not get work from 0 to 3, but from 3 to 6 or 7, we will get the work. But from 7 to 10, we will not get work again. And so many of our general counsel friends eventually move from 4 or 5 to 7 to 10, and they stop sending us work. I have not been able to solve this riddle, except for the wise advice of one of my friend, who said that, again, introduce your juniors to the juniors in my team, let them work together. So I come back to the point that Amy said earlier, that develop relationships and network with everybody in the team. So I think I have largely repeated what Amy said. I agree with it, but with a slight bit, perspective from my territory, and that's my input.
So Nick, what has been the best way for you to build trust and credibility with clients as you've been gaining experience? I'm assuming it's been very similar to Amy and Alishan's experience too, and their advice. But as somebody who's sort of, very new in this, this track, what would you suggest for sort of the younger lawyers on this call?
I think, yeah, echoing everything Amy and Alishan have said, I mean, it really is gold, and it really does also align with all the good advice I've ever had. You know, so that is good. I think the one thing I'd add is probably I've always been surprised about where work has come from when it's come to me, and the consistent thing is that I've worked hard, even when people think, you know, even when I think no one's watching, and I've done the right thing. And actually, I think those if you keep doing those two things, you allow your conscience to kind of hold you and push you forward, and you work even when you think no one's watching as hard as you can. People respond to that. And you know, my big client win was a paralegal who became my trainee at my old firm. I brought her through to a newly qualified solicitor. She wasn't retained. I stayed in touch with her, gave her some career advice, and now she's a head of legal at a large kind of mortgage servicing business. And you know, was I trying to do business development when I was supporting, you know, this young woman starting on her career? No, I wasn't. I was just someone was put in front of me. I wanted to support them. I thought they had potential that was being partly overlooked, and I worked hard to support her, and I did what I felt was right in the moment, and it's really paid off. And I can probably give a few more examples. I mean, all parties meetings are absolute gold because you can get yourself in the room with the other lawyer and their client and your client and the joint venture partners and whoever else. And if you're the most reasonable lawyer in the room, you're the most proactive, most pragmatic lawyer in the room, the joint venture partners, the counterparties, they start to see that. And then you never know where they'll end up. And in a couple of years, again, I've had a call. Oh, you know, you acted for the joint venture partner. I like the way you handled that transaction, and would you be willing to help me here? And again, it's not. There's definitely space for proactive business development, and we absolutely should be doing it and building those relationships, but also not neglecting that sense of if you work hard and you do the right thing as much as you can, it will just happen and it will just come to you. And I'm starting to see that, and I can believe that it only grows, and that's what I keep being told.
That's
Can
excellent.
I add on to that? Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead,
please
Lindsay.
do. I was just going to say,
Um,
you know, we've had a ton of stories in the ILN where exactly that, you know, you work hard, you do the right thing. And we've had where, you know, even the counterparty on the other side of a deal has come back later and said, we liked how you acted so much that we now want you to be our lawyer. So I think that advice cannot be underestimated. You know, if you're a really good lawyer, it's not, you know, it's not just that word of mouth. It's not just that business development. It's how you act in the room that is going to matter to, you know, to the parties in the room. So I 100% agree with that.
I totally agree with that. Hard work definitely pays off. I know you might think the laborious hours you're putting in are crazy, but it does pay off. So I agree with Nick wholeheartedly. Also, keep in mind, no client is too small and no matter is too small. Because, you know, sometimes clients start off as a one-off, you're helping them out, starting a company, you never think they're going to advance. And lo and behold, you're, you know, representing them in a merger or an acquisition at a later date because you stayed with them and you grew. Even if they don't turn into something, you never know who they know and who they're going to refer you to because you did them a favor at one point. So again, no client is too small, no matter is too small. Be responsive. That is the hugest thing you can be in business. People want a phone call. They want you to pick up the phone. A lot of times I tell my younger attorneys or my associates, I shouldn't refer to them by age. Sorry about that. You know, you get way more valuable information when you're on a phone call with somebody or when you're sitting with them in person. It is very easy and it's very lazy, and we all do it, to shoot emails back and forth. But when you pick up the phone and you talk to people, they will tell you, you know, you can talk to them about their family, their vacation, where they just spent the weekend. You're building relationships. It is invaluable to get to know your clients. I just spent an hour on the phone with a very good client of the firm, you know, just talking about the general state of affairs, just because he wanted to shoot the shit, for, sorry for the expression, but for an hour. And that's okay. He's an amazing, good client, and I'll make that up, you know, in years, in billables in other ways. But be responsive, talk to them, pick up the phone, stay away from the email, stay away from the texting, talk to people, get to know them, build those relationships. And also, you just never know, like it's an opportunity to build those relationships so they refer you to somebody. You know, a small matter might not be anything today, but in 3-4 years, when you've helped somebody on something, they're going to say, you know, call so-and-so, and it might be a much bigger matter. So I can't stress that enough. It is phone calls, phone calls, phone calls, build the relationships that way.
99.9% of the supervision I do is telling people to pick up the phone. You know, so we go away with the actions and they're like, right, I'll send an email. And it's just, no, please pick up the phone. I think people are afraid of picking up the phone now. I
They
mean,
are.
I don't, you get live feedback as well as building that rapport. You get live feedback. So you cut out about 5 or 6 emails because you can get to the heart of their problem so quickly.
Right. And sometimes they'll say something, and I've been on the call with colleagues or where they'll say something and it's like, wait, and it drives another question, and you realize that you're totally on a totally different wavelength, or that there's something else going on that it's like, well, you can't do that because of this. And that would never have happened if you were just dealing in emails. It is so imperative to have those conversations because you elicit just much more information.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I mean, one more thing I've realized often, adding to the point that Nick and you have said, so many times I have seen rather than the confusion being solved, the confusion being created because of the emails. So if you just call a person and then finish it off, like Nick said, that 4 or 5 emails are avoided by a single phone call. And so many times, because if the client gets a feeling that your associate or you are not understanding what he's wanting to say, even if you are very prompt with your emails, it is counterproductive.
Yep.
So it's always better to pick up the phone. So many times we advise our clients that the moment there are 1 or 2 emails on a single point, just pick up the phone, schedule a call and close it. Because too much of corona, sometimes the clients also get irritated, that you are asking the same point. Maybe he's not able to explain. He may not be a lawyer. He may be a business person. We are asking, very hair splitting answers. He may not be clear in his mind. We are asking the questions from the standpoint of law. He does not have the understanding of what we understand. I mean, between the offer and acceptance and counter offer, there may be a difference for a lawyer, but not for a layperson.
Yep.
So from that point of view, I completely agree that pick up the phone and make personal communication one-to-one, oral, and it's better.
I have to add to that pick up the phone concept. Lawyers pay us for our time. I'm sorry, our clients pay us for our time, right? They own our time, and that's okay. They're paying us a lot of money for our time. When they call you, you pick up the phone. That's another really important thing. They don't want you to call back in 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. When they're calling, they want to talk to their lawyer. And the most successful lawyers will always pick up their phone because that's our livelihood. They pay for our mortgages and our kids' stuff. Like you pick up that phone and you talk to them right then and there. You might not be able to get the work done right then and there, but say, I'll get this to you this afternoon, tomorrow, whatever. But their time is invaluable as well. They're running businesses. When they call their lawyer, they want an answer right then. They want to talk to the lawyer. So to the extent that you can take their calls at all times, if you're in a meeting with an associate and you realize like your client's calling you, sometimes you might want to, make that choice and say, hey, I'll circle with you later. I've got to take this call. Sometimes, and clients are all different. Sometimes you have really needy clients. If I don't pick up my office phone, they'll start calling my cell phone. They'll call me every which way. And it might not be an emergency and it might be like, oh my God, but they're needy. Like, and that's okay. They're still your really good clients. So I strongly suggest the lawyers who pick up those phone calls and are there when their clients need them are the ones that will have, the most success.
I can agree with Amy 100% there. I've worked for the ILN for 20 years, so I've worked with a lot of different lawyers, some very successful lawyers and some less successful lawyers. And the lawyers that are most successful, the ones that I know make the most money and have the best clients, are the ones that always return my emails very fast. And so I know they're not just returning my emails very fast, but they're returning their clients' emails very fast. They're always picking up the phone. They're always doing exactly what their clients need them to do. And they always have the best book of business. That's just been my experience over the last 20 years. And I am somebody who hates to use the phone. My first job ever was cold calling. I had to make 150 cold calls a day, selling season tickets for the New Jersey Devils. That's a trivia.
That's hard in itself.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. And so that I just hated making phone calls, but mistake, as Alishan was saying, you can avoid making mistakes and confusion by just picking up the phone. Sometimes if you're I'm an introvert, I hate picking up the phone, but you can just fix things really quickly. So really, even if you hate it, makes a big difference. So, all right, let's move on to transitioning from a peer to a leader. I think that's a really hard thing when you've been working with people and you're on the same level as them, and then all of a sudden you're a partner and they're still not a partner. So how do you navigate that transition without damaging your relationships? What's that like? Nick, do you want to talk to that? You're a little closer to that experience at the moment.
Yeah, no, I am. You know, I'd be interested to know the answer. I think there's I mean, yeah, I'd be lying if I said that wasn't difficult, because the people who used to sort of criticize the firm to you, you're now the firm. You know, and actually they know that there shouldn't be a cigarette paper between me and my partners in terms of how we own decisions and how responsible we are for what's happening. So the relationship does change, you know, and there's no two ways about it. I mean, you're helped, as I said, you know, at Fladgate by the fact that you're kind of marked out a couple of years in advance. So there is a kind of, well, I know where you're going on, you know, and but I think what I'm finding is helping is probably owning it. You know, not resiling from being the partner, but just, and at the same time, you know, so owning it. You know, I am a partner now. I'm not going to join in these conversations. I'm not going to kind of participate in those ways. I'm probably going to stop joining all the associates for lunch like we used to meet in the corner room, because you know I need to step back a little bit to sort of be in the position that I'm in. But at the same time, recognizing my place, I'm not a senior partner. So I think, you know, there's always apparently one partner every few years who gets promoted, who suddenly starts acting like they're a senior partner. And that's incredibly unsavory. And I mean, I think we've probably all seen it and can recognize it. So at the same time as owning your position, recognizing you are a partner now, you should behave like a partner, you know, recognizing that you are a junior partner, and not trying to sort of trump, not you know, it's also difficult in the way you relate with other partners. I know that's not the question, but I think it's an interesting point as well, is you've been the dynamic changes that in that direction, because you've been servicing their clients for a long time, and now you are their partner, and the difficult conversations have to be had around the share of the credit for those clients. And again, I think that you have to walk the tightrope between not being a pushover and allowing, you know, continuing to operate as a really helpful senior associate in a way that will never help you. But at the same time, if you get your elbows out and start trying to get your hands on all this credit and don't prioritize relationships, you're going to burn bridges that will really harm your progress. So as I say, I don't think there's a really easy answer. I think you just have to weigh all these competing tensions together and try and walk appropriately in the middle of them.
Mm. Amy, do you have advice for that?
Well, I was just going to say, I think Nick's exactly right. It's balancing confidence, right, with cockiness. You don't want to be the arrogant person who just all of a sudden, you know, rises to the top. You want to ease into it a little bit, but I think Nick hit the nail on the head. I also think everything in business, and especially in internal firm things, kindness and respect. You always treat people with kindness. You treat them with respect. You know, put yourself in their shoes, especially with your peers. If you became a partner and they didn't become a partner, awkward, hard, difficult, right? But be mindful of where they are, and that you know, and it's a friendship. It's a business relationship, but it's also a friendship. So just be mindful of it. I think, just don't get too big for your britches, but you'll ease into it. And as time goes on, it just becomes easier and easier. And, as long as you always have the respect of your peers, you'll be fine. So just always treat people with kindness and respect, and just be mindful that you don't want to be too arrogant about anything too fast, especially. We earn it. We earn the privilege of gaining respect as time goes on. And I think if you just, everyone handles things differently, but I think if you do it with both of those things, you'll be fine.
Alishan, do you have anything to add to that?
I think Nick and Amy has encapsulated it very well. I would just add that to my mind, there are three factors in this situation of between a rock and a hard place. Nick, yes, you are there. But I think there are three factors. One is each individual deals with other individuals differently. There is a chemistry whenever you talk to. So if I spend equal amount of time with Nick, Amy, and Lindsay with you, half an hour, conversing over a coffee, the topics of discussion will be altogether different.
Mhm.
So basically, it depends upon the chemistry between two people, how they talk, the topics that they find of common interest. Same happens with colleagues also. With each colleague, we have a different relationship. Second is also organizational culture. Some firms are informal, some are more formal, some are traditional, some are pragmatic, some are dynamic. That is there. And the third factor is also the recipient. Some people take promotion of their colleague as a partner before them as a defeat. Some of them take it positively. Of course, it's not easy to digest. So, in my understanding, it has to be a combination of three factors. It's a very complex situation. There are no straightaway formulas, and I think Nick is treading it well, and so do a lot of other youngsters who have made partners and are doing very well. So it's a complex thing. You have to deal with the senior partners, you have to deal with your colleagues, you have to deal with your seniors who have become your partners now, who are talking about credits. You have to deal with your colleagues who are now your juniors. So it's a complex thing, I think. But again, it also depends upon. In my experience, I have had colleagues and juniors of different sensitivities. Some of them are, when you go to a fun place, you are going for a night out, you go for an office party, or you do go for a wedding of a colleague, you are very casual. Next day in the office, they are absolutely formal. So whatever you discuss, you talk, you gossips, uh, does not get carried back. Some of them try to take liberties the next day, you know in the sense of passing some comments or some jokes or something. They think that, okay, we have had a good evening together, we gossiped, we had a couple of drinks together, so I'm your friend now. So it depends from person to person again. That is what I say. So it's very complex. I think it depends on very many factors, as I say, uh, and organization.
It's true. It's not easy. There are a lot of fine lines that you need to walk, and it is very complex. So let's dive into one final topic before we close. And I just want to remind everybody that we do have a Q&A box and a chat box if you have any questions that you'd like the panelists to answer. So feel free to use those, and I will have the panelists address them. But I do want to ask you about the financial aspects of running a law firm. Many young lawyers do just look at only the legal aspects of their practice. So I would like to ask you, why is it important to understand the financial aspects of running a law firm also?
I'll take this because this is my soapbox all the time. And you probably brought it up the topic, because I think there should be a class in law school about the business of law, because it is probably, and most people don't appreciate this, it is probably one of the hardest professions you will ever do, because we do it all. We do the marketing, we do the client relationship, we do the billing, we do the research, we do the internal management of running our matters, taking care of, our admin, our associates, our fellow partners, our colleagues, and we run the firm. So it is an incredibly, incredibly hard job. Like in most organizations, you have a sales team, you have a marketing team, you have the billing department. we do it all. I get that we have a billing department, but we really do it all. When there's a client relationship about a bill, they're calling you and saying, hey, this is too much or whatever. So the business of law is huge. So start focusing on it now. Like if you don't get your bills out on a timely manner and you don't get collections in the door, your practice is not going to run, your firm is not going to run. So be mindful of all of that. Start to do it right from an early stage. Get your bills, get your time done on a daily basis so that at the end of the month, you're not spending days rebilling or thinking about what you did last month. Be really organized. You have to be strategic. You have to be organized. And whether it's at the practice level, at your own practice level, or at the firm level, a business will not run unless you're organized, strategic. You get your bill, you get your money, your bills out, and you get your money in the door. So that's the key to success, whether it's at your practice level or at the firm level. Be mindful of it. Watch how your partners are doing it. Watch how your firm does it. Make sure your time goes in on a regular basis. Make sure your colleagues that are working on your matters get their time in on a regular basis. We send our bills out on the first of the month, and you know, we try to be really, really efficient. And the attorneys that do that and are really efficient are the ones that are, again, most successful. Don't stir away from, you know, calling a client and addressing the billing issue. There's a lot of clients that won't pay, and that's fine. Sometimes you're waiting for them to pay because there's an exit, they're doing an acquisition, or they're doing something and you've agreed that they can pay when the deal closes. Litigation, other, you know, general corporate advice type of matters, you want to get paid on a regular basis. You want to watch that. You're not going to be a successful lawyer unless you do it. And, you know, the whole key to running a firm is the exact same situation. Money in the door, expenses out the door. You want to tie all of that together. You have to be an efficient business person. So just like you run your own checkbook, just like you pay your bills, you've got to do it at your practice level and at the firm level, or otherwise you'll never succeed. You'll be underwater really fast. So I get it. It's a hard business. When you're doing the marketing, you're doing the client development, you're doing the client relationships, you're doing all of that stuff. But the more organized you are and the more you start to learn at an early stage to do it, the more successful you'll be. And you're doing it already. You're doing it by managing the different matters for the different partners you're working on and the different clients you're working on. You're doing it. Just make sure you keep the efficiency up.
Mhm.
Alishan, anything to add?
Amy, you hardly leave anything for me to speak.
I'm sorry.
And Amy was the right person to take it first, because she's the richest of us all. She knows the financial management the best. Now, so just to add to that, I think she's absolutely right that as lawyers, we are not trained in business development, but we end up doing it. You know, we have to do it. Again, something I tell my associates quite often is that there are two options that you have. There are three options largely when you do, because in India we have, you have arguing counsels who are solo practitioners who go to the courts and argue. Whether you want to be a solo practitioner or you want to be a team player or you want to be an in-house counsel. So you become an in-house counsel, you are running a team within the budgets, you are outsourcing some work to the law firms. That's an entirely different career. And like Emmy said earlier, that don't shortchange your career earlier on. So this profession can take you to any heights. So give the practice of law as a practitioner of law rather than in-house a fair chance before you decide to go in-house. And I completely agree with that. Now, when you decide to be in a law firm, you have to realize that you are a part of a team. You are not the singles tennis player, because the advantages of that are that all the prize money is yours. But when you are injured, your rankings drop and you don't get any prize money.
Mm.
So if you're a team player, like a soccer player, I mean, that's the idea of a law firm. You have to carry your partners with you. You have to carry your colleagues with you, and they would carry you together. So it's a team. I have seen often the teams and the partners competing within themselves. And it has happened with my friends who have made partners in larger firms, and they often complain about it. I find it difficult to understand. I think it's the human tendency of competing with anyone sitting in the next room. So realizing that you are part of the same team, and if we succeed, if all succeed, no single player can win a soccer World Cup. It has to be the team which has to win it.
Mhm.
That has to win it. So that idea with the discipline that Amy says, because even if one person is indisciplined in the team, we have seen so many times the final of a World Cup has been played by 10 or 9 players against a team of 11 players because somebody got a card in the semi-finals or quarterfinals and couldn't come back. You can't even compete. So in that sense, I completely agree with it that everybody has to be extremely disciplined. We succeed if everyone succeeds. So it's a team play. We may have equations, but once we have chosen to be in a law firm, we have not gone in-house and we have not become sole practitioner. This is a conscious choice that we have made. That comes with certain obligations that we have towards our team and certain commitments. And I can't emphasize more upon it and won't want to repeat what Amy said, but I vouch every word of what she said.
I think just to add as well, I mean, it's not just an altruistic exercise. I love everything you just said, but if you have immaculate financial hygiene as an associate, you will be set apart. And actually, when I was interviewed for partner, that was what they really wanted to know. What are your write-offs like? What are your, and I mean, it all came down to it's kind of like building a muscle. That if you're in the habit of thinking about all these things from a very early stage, the wider context of the relationship, the wider context of the business, as you progress, you'll be stronger and fitter, ready to take on the next level of responsibility. And I'm sure this transcends borders. What is it that kills a client relationship that's otherwise going well? If you come with all our time costs are X, we said they'd be Y. If you're in the habit of checking where your whip is against the file, keeping everybody updated, explaining why you are where you are, billing regularly, not letting bad debt build up. If you're doing those things, you make yourself kind of irreplaceable really to the partner you work with, because you're really lifting a huge amount from them that allows them to go out and win new business. So yes, everyone wins, but you definitely win, because as much as becoming a technical expert, if you are good at the business side of things, that will take you really far and really fast, I would have thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I
Any-
actually have one. Oh, go
Please
ahead.
do.
I have one question for the panel. So, there's always for a lot of young attorneys, they're always like, oh, why did I pick this career? I hate my job, or it's so much work, or it's so whatever. And you hear a lot of negativity about the profession in general, right? Like, I have to say, and my friends are perplexed by this, like even like outside the practice of law, like I love my job, like I really do. And everyone's just like, you love your job? Who loves work? But I love my job because it's different. I love the management aspect of it. I love doing the work. I love the client relationship. I love it for the same reason that I started that last topic, right? All of the stuff we do, sales, marketing, billing, client relations, blah, blah, blah. But like, it makes it so exciting. And then on a regular basis, you're constantly intellectually challenged with something new every single day. So like, for me, it's amazing. It's been a great fulfilling career. And I just would like to ask Nick and Alishan if they feel the same way, because we do hear so much negativity about our profession. But I think it's really been, for me, it's been a really incredibly rewarding an amazing journey. And I practice with people that are really amazing lawyers and really good colleagues. And I just want people to think about it a little more before running out, because it's such a daunting career. So Nick, I'll ask you first, then you can pass it on to Alishan. Do you feel the same? I mean, you're at a much earlier point in your career. How do you feel about the profession?
Yeah, exactly the same. Exactly the same. I love my job. And I don't know many people who say that.
Right.
And I mean, not lawyers. I mean, across every type of job, everyone I know. I mean, very few people love their job like I love my job. And as you say, I mean, why did I want to become a partner? Because I'm interested in doing all those things, and actually, variety is exciting. It's invigorating, and law is also, it's a bit of a fraternity, isn't it? I mean, I think you meet another lawyer and you kind of you have a degree of fellow feeling, and when I made partner, it really hit home the number of messages I got from people I've had quite difficult negotiations with, or people who were at my last firm, former colleagues, partners from my last firm. I got a bottle of champagne from them, and I just thought, what a nice touch, because when I left there, you can't really leave a firm that well, I don't think, but they were just really pleased. They, lots of lovely notes, and I think belonging to the legal community is something I feel privileged to be part of. But actually, I enjoy the job as well, and it's unreasonable to expect every day to be a good day. And as long as I have that perspective, I'm not going to get weighed down when it's like, oh, there's this person's complaining, this person's popping off, that needy client's calling me all the time. You can kind of keep a bit of perspective about those things. And if you think, well, how will I feel in a month's time? And normally I'm back to feeling pretty bouncy and positive about it. So I'm definitely not the kind of lawyer who tries to put his kids or their friends' kids off going into law. I'm quite the opposite. I think it's great.
I agree with Nick and Amy. I think in my one of my earlier podcasts, I declared and I disclosed that I'm an accidental lawyer. I didn't set out to be a lawyer, but I ended up being a lawyer. But after becoming a lawyer, I never regretted it. I enjoyed every second and every moment of it, every part of my career, every struggle, every success, every increment, every change in position. It has been wonderful. Also, the legacy. I think I did a podcast with Lindsay, and I said that lawyers are the messengers of change world over. And I take pride in the fact that world over, the revolutions have been headed by the lawyers. The politicians, the most successful politicians and the most sensible politicians are lawyers. From that point of view, we are the agents of change. We have the power. It's an empowered profession.
Mhm.
In India, lawyers were not so much respected a few decades back. But today, lawyer symbolizes power, a person who can get you justice, who can make a difference, who can make a change. And it is so good to be in that position because the social status, the recognition, the respect that comes to you and to your family, everybody, that, oh, your dad is a lawyer. My daughter is often asked, and in the last 2 decades, changed in India. It has changed in India. So it's a wonderful feeling to be a lawyer in India and, starting your own law firm as I did and all that. So I can't complain. I'm very happy being a lawyer. And perhaps if today somebody asked me whether I had 2, 3 other professions, I won't go into details, the options of pursuing 2, 3 other professions. And I think that if I would have pursued, where would I have been? I have no regrets. I think I am in the happiest place that I could have been. So no regrets, and I'm very fulfilling experience being a lawyer. So I encourage everybody who has set out to be a lawyer and to be a successful lawyer, put in your hard work, as Emmy has said and as Nick is proving us in that sense. And I think we are in a good place, all of us.
Alishan, it might be a profession of respect in India, but maybe not so much in the United States anymore.
Nor in the United Kingdom. Yeah, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Well, on that note, that's a great place to end. Thank you everybody for joining us. This will be recorded, this has been recorded, so I will be sharing that with everybody afterwards. When you exit, you will get a survey, so I hope that you will take some time to just a couple short questions, and we look forward to welcoming you to our next ILN Next Gen session. And if you have not taken the opportunity to fill out our application to be a mentee, we would love to welcome you to be a mentee this year. We have lots of mentors volunteering this year, so we are excited to welcome anyone who would like to be considered as a mentee to join our 8th year, I believe we're entering, of mentorship. So thank you everybody for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
There's no more questions? There's no questions?
Nope, there are no questions. So if anybody does have any questions, please send them to me, and I'm happy to pass them on to our panelists. And I'm sure they will be happy to answer them. We will be having another session for Europe and Asia Pacific tomorrow at what is 4 a.m. my time, 9 a.m. British Standard Time. I'm not sure what time that is your time, Alishan.
I think 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2:30. I'll be
Okay,
there.
2:30. Yeah, 2:30. So for those of you that would like to attend that session, we will see you there. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you
Thanks
again
all.
soon.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take
Abhi.
care.
Thanks, Vic. Thank you as always. Thank you. Bye-bye.